gorillas belong to the family Hominidae, making them one of humanity's closest living relatives, sharing about 98% of their DNA with humans. Their evolutionary story begins millions of years ago in the dense forests of Africa, where ancestral primates gradually diverged into different lineages. The ancestors of modern gorillas split from the human-chimpanzee lineage around 8 to 10 million years ago. Over time, these early apes adapted to life in thick forests, developing traits that distinguished them from other primates. Larger bodies, stronger jaws for processing fibrous vegetation, and a primarily terrestrial lifestyle supported by robust limbs. Fossil evidence of gorilla evolution is sparse because their tropical forest habitats do not preserve remains well, but genetic studies help reconstruct their evolutionary path. Today, there are two species of gorillas, eastern and western, with several subspecies, each adapted to different ecological zones in Central and East Africa. Their distribution ranges from lowland rainforests to high-altitude mountain forests, and their physical and behavioral differences reflect the environments in which they evolved. Gorillas were never domesticated in the way that horses, dogs, or cattle were. Their immense strength, complex social structures, and specific habitat requirements make domestication not only impractical, but ethically unacceptable. Historically, humans encountered gorillas as part of the natural world, rather than as animals to be used for labor or companionship. Early interactions mostly involved hunting, avoidance, or curiosity. Because gorillas inhabit relatively remote forests, they were unknown to Western science until the 19th century, when explorers, naturalists, and colonial expeditions documented them. Despite a lack of domestication, gorillas have had a significant impact on human understanding of primates and evolution. Their close genetic relationship with humans has made them central to the study of anthropology, behavior, and conservation, leading to a profound respect for their intelligence and emotional depth. In ancient African societies, gorillas were part of the surrounding natural environment and occasionally appeared in oral traditions, though they were not central to agriculture, warfare, or transportation. Indigenous groups living near gorilla habitats often held a mixture of fear and respect for these powerful animals. While some groups hunted gorillas for meat or cultural reasons, others avoided them due to beliefs about their strength, spirits, or human-like qualities. Gorillas were not used in warfare, labor, or trade, but stories of giant forest people circulated in parts of West and Central Africa long before Western explorers confirmed their existence. Ancient Mediterranean writers, such as Hanno the Navigator, mentioned encounters with large, hairy beings along the African coast, possibly gorillas or other primates. These early accounts, though exaggerated, contributed to myths about wild forest creatures. However, gorillas remained largely outside the sphere of ancient trade or economic activity, since they were not commodified animals and did not fit into domesticated systems. When European explorers reached Central Africa, gorillas became subjects of curiosity and scientific interest. The early 19th century saw rapid growth in zoological studies, and gorillas were brought to Western attention through drawings, specimens, and eventually live captures for zoos. Though gorillas were never involved in labor or industry, their role in Western culture grew significantly as they became symbolic of the wild, the primitive, or the misunderstood natural world. Their presence in museums and zoos contributed to a growing fascination with biology, evolution, and the natural sciences. Although gorillas were not directly used in industries or sports, they indirectly influenced scientific fields such as anthropology, primatology, and wildlife management. The work of researchers like George Schaller and later Diane Fossey revolutionized global understanding of gorillas, shifting their cultural role from feared creatures to highly intelligent, emotionally complex beings deserving of protection. Gorillas, unlike horses or oxen, were never part of farming systems or human labor. Instead, their relationship to agriculture has been centered on their role within ecosystems. Gorillas are vital seed dispersers, contributing to the growth and regeneration of rainforests. By feeding on fruits, leaves, and stems, they help maintain plant diversity, and their movement through the forest assists in spreading seeds across long distances. This natural activity supports the health and stability of the forests where they live, which in turn benefit human populations who rely on these forests for resources, climate regulation, and biodiversity. In some regions, gorillas come into conflict with humans when agricultural expansion encroaches into their habitats. Gorillas may raid crops when farmland borders forests, leading to tensions with local communities. But these interactions are a result of habitat loss and fragmentation, rather than natural behavior, as gorillas typically avoid areas dominated by humans. Before modern conservation, gorillas faced threats from hunting and habitat destruction, but they also became central to scientific and cultural shifts in how humans relate to wildlife. As researchers documented gorilla family structures, communication, emotional depth, and social intelligence, public perception evolved significantly. Gorillas went from being viewed as dangerous beasts to being understood as gentle giants with complex social bonds. Their ability to express emotions, comfort, grief, playfulness, has shaped scientific discussions about animal consciousness. Indirectly, gorillas have also played a therapeutic role for humans. Observing them in nature documentaries, zoos with ethical practices, or protected sanctuaries helps people reconnect with the natural world. Watching gorillas interact with their families, build nests, or care for their young can offer emotional comfort and stimulate curiosity, empathy, and a sense of wonder. While gorillas are not used in formal therapeutic programs like therapy dogs or horses, their presence in media, education, and ecotourism has created psychological benefits for millions of people worldwide. The relationship between humans and gorillas today is shaped by a mix of admiration, responsibility, and conservation urgency. Understanding gorilla history, from their ancient evolution to modern interactions, provides a deeper perspective on how closely our own species is connected to theirs. Gorillas have influenced scientific thought, inspired conservation movements, and become powerful symbols of the need to protect the natural world. Their story shows not only how they evolved alongside humans, but how human attitudes toward nature have changed over time. As one of our closest relatives, gorillas remind us of the shared ancestry that binds all primates and the importance of preserving the ecosystems that sustain life. Gorillas have long captured the human imagination and gradually made their way into art, literature, and symbolic storytelling. They do not appear as prominently in ancient mythologies as animals like lions or horses, largely because gorillas lived in regions distant from early Eurasian civilizations. However, once gorillas entered global awareness in the 19th and 20th centuries, they became powerful symbols representing strength, mystery, misunderstood wilderness, and the fragile relationship between humanity and nature. Their sheer presence, massive bodies, expressive faces, and gentle behaviors sparked fascination across continents and helped shape the way people interpret the animal world. In Western culture, early depictions of gorillas were heavily influenced by fear, curiosity, and lack of familiarity. Mid-19th century explorers returning from Africa told exaggerated stories about monstrous apes capable of attacking humans or kidnapping people. These sensationalized accounts inspired works of fiction, including adventure novels and early films that portrayed gorillas as dangerous beings. The most famous example was King Kong, created in 1933, which turned a gorilla-like creature into an icon of misunderstood power and fear. While scientifically inaccurate, these cultural artifacts reveal how gorillas became a canvas for human anxieties about nature, strength, and the unknown. Over time, accurate scientific observation replaced myth and fear. Detailed field studies transformed how artists, writers, and the public viewed gorillas. Researchers who worked alongside wild gorilla groups, most notably Diane Fossey in the mountains of Rwanda, showed the world that gorillas are not aggressive monsters, but gentle, family-oriented animals. Fossey's work demonstrated the emotional depth, intelligence, and social complexity of gorillas, influencing documentaries, films, children's books, and conservation campaigns. Gorillas appeared in photography, fine art, environmental literature, and educational media as symbols of innocence, vulnerability, and the urgent need for conservation. They became cultural ambassadors for endangered wildlife and living proof of the connection between humans and the natural world. In African art and folklore, gorillas appear more subtly and accurately than in early Western portrayals. Certain traditional societies living near gorilla habitats held beliefs or proverbs about them, recognizing their strength, dignity, or elusive nature. Some groups interpreted gorillas as protectors of the forest or as beings with human-like traits deserving respect. Oral stories often described encounters with gorillas, emphasizing avoidance rather than conflict. Although gorillas did not become major mythological figures like the lion or crocodile, their presence in local stories highlights the quiet respect many communities held for them as members of the forest world. Gorillas also influenced modern storytelling through narratives that focus on empathy, environmental stewardship, and interspecies connection. Films and books about gorillas frequently explore moral themes, the consequences of human expansion, the importance of conservation, and the emotional bonds within animal families. Gorillas have become symbols of the natural world's fragility and the moral responsibility humans bear towards species at risk. As humans grow more aware of animal intelligence, gorillas serve as reminders of our evolutionary kinship and the shared ancestry that links all primates. Beyond artistic and symbolic representation, the impact of gorillas on human society has grown through conservation, ecotourism, scientific research, and global environmental awareness. Gorillas have shaped entire conservation movements, particularly efforts to protect African rainforests and mountain ecosystems. Their relatively peaceful nature and highly social group dynamics make them compelling ambassadors for wildlife preservation. Images and videos of gorilla families interacting, a silverback leading his group, mothers caring for infants, juveniles playing, have inspired people around the world to advocate for conservation policies and sustainable practices. Culturally, gorillas have shifted from being feared creatures to deeply respected animals. They influence how society views animal intelligence, family bonds, and emotional expression in non-human species. Studies on gorilla communication, problem solving, play, and grief have contributed to broader discussions about animal consciousness and welfare. Gorillas help people understand that complex emotional lives are not exclusive to humans, influencing the ethics of how we treat wildlife, conduct research, and manage natural habitats. Psychologically, gorillas have an interesting effect on human emotions. Observing gorillas, whether in documentaries, ethical zoos, or natural reserves, often evokes feelings of calm, empathy, and fascination. Many people report that watching gorillas interact socially is soothing, even therapeutic. Their slow movements, nurturing behaviors, and expressive faces offer a sense of connection and grounding. Ecotourism in Rwanda, Uganda, and Congo brings visitors into close, yet regulated contact with wild gorilla families, creating powerful emotional experiences that many describe as transformative. These encounters not only support conservation financially, but also reinforce the emotional link between humans and wildlife, reminding visitors of the deep connection between species. Modern gorillas face numerous challenges, making conservation one of the most significant aspects of their present and future. Habitat loss remains the greatest threat. As human populations expand, forests are cut down for agriculture, mining, logging, and settlements. Fragmented habitats isolate gorilla groups, limiting access to food and mates, and increasing their vulnerability to disease. Poaching continues in some regions, despite legal protections. Although gorillas are rarely hunted for food today, snares and traps meant for other animals can injure or kill them. The illegal wildlife trade also threatens certain gorilla populations, particularly infants taken for captivity. Disease is another major challenge. Because gorillas are so genetically similar to humans, they can catch many human illnesses. Respiratory infections spread easily, especially in areas with tourism, making strict health regulations essential. Ebola outbreaks have devastated gorilla populations in parts of Central Africa, killing thousands and dramatically reducing some groups. Conservationists work tirelessly to monitor gorilla health, vaccinate populations when possible, and reduce human to gorilla disease transmission. Despite these threats, global conservation efforts have achieved meaningful success. Organizations and governments have created national parks, reserves, and protected forests to safeguard gorilla habitats. In Rwanda, Uganda, and Congo, mountain gorilla numbers have increased due to decades of protection, careful tourism management, and community involvement. Local people benefit economically from gorilla tourism, creating a powerful incentive to protect them. Western lowland gorillas still face steep declines, but international conservation groups are fighting to preserve their habitats, reduce poaching, and study their populations more effectively. Conservation strategies also include reforestation, habitat corridors, and sustainable land use planning that reduces conflict between humans and wildlife. Scientists use camera traps, genetic sampling, drones, and satellite imagery to track gorilla populations and monitor habitat changes. These technologies help researchers understand how gorillas move across landscapes, how family groups evolve, and how threats can be better managed. Looking ahead, the future of gorillas will be shaped by how humanity balances technological progress, environmental ethics, and sustainable development. Advances in monitoring, genetic research, and disease prevention will continue to improve conservation outcomes. Artificial intelligence may play a role in analyzing population data, predicting habitat changes, and identifying poaching risks in real time. Community-based conservation programs, which empower local people as guardians of their forests, will remain essential. Ethical questions will also shape the future of gorillas. How can tourism be managed without disturbing gorilla groups? How much land should be protected for wildlife? How can economic development coexist with conservation? As climate change alters African ecosystems, gorillas may face shifting food availability and habitat conditions, requiring adaptive conservation strategies. Despite these challenges, gorillas hold a vital place in the world's ecological and cultural future. Their survival is deeply tied to the health of African forests, which benefit both biodiversity and human populations. Gorillas symbolize the global struggle to protect endangered species and preserve natural ecosystems. Their continued existence depends on a combination of scientific research, public awareness, ethical planning, and respect for the natural world. In the years to come, gorillas will continue to inspire, challenge, and teach humanity. They remind us of our shared ancestry, our responsibility toward other species, and the importance of preserving wild places. Their story, one of resilience, vulnerability, intelligence, and deep social connection, underscores the essential relationship between humans and the natural world.